I'm a spiritual person. I'm sure you've heard that. People have said it so many times, but it means so many different things. What does that actually mean? I'm a spiritual person. If we want to get down to it, the reality is every single one of us are spiritual persons. We have a spirit. We're made of spirit. We are body. We're made of a body. So what does it actually mean to be spiritual? And what is it that people are pursuing when they say that they want to be spiritual? There's so many different ways of looking at this, but it really comes down to two. There's a spirituality that leads us to the source of all spirituality. That's the real path that will cause us to be helpful and fulfill that thing inside of us, that desire to have a reason behind our life, to have fulfillment in who we are and what we do. And there's another path that leads to emptiness, to fear, to confusion, to hurting other people. When it comes down to it, we need to understand what it means to be spiritual. We need to know how to recognize real spirituality. This is the mystery of loving spirituality.
This is Dreams and Mysteries.
Paul, the apostle, got an interesting letter from a group of people in ancient Corinth that were very curious about this whole spiritual realm, how it worked and how it didn't work. They wanted to understand, how do we tell who is really spiritual and who's not? How do we tell who's actually being moved by the Spirit of God and who's not? What is a spiritual person like? And Paul gives us some points that are very helpful, very telling, that we could still apply to people and to circumstances, encounters that are called spiritual today, so that we can recognize whether or not it's actually from God. The first thing that we need to understand is when it comes to spirituality, there are two sources. There's light and there's dark. Now, when the spirit world moves on the material world, and especially through people, causing an encounter, causing a manifestation of the Spirit, or causing someone's life to be changed, you will be able to tell what the source is by the fruit of their lives. Spirituality will always end up affecting someone's speech, affecting actions, affecting their character, and affecting their values. And when you look at those things, you can begin to recognize what the source of that spirituality is, whether it's real and whether it's not. Now, the speech. The first thing that you want to look at when it comes to trying to understand something that is supposedly spiritual is what really is the source. Is the source God or not? Is it life? Is it death? Is it light or is it dark? Now, when we say God, we actually have to define what we mean, because a lot of people will use the word God to talk about their spirituality, but the God that they're talking about is not the God that has revealed himself in Scripture. So let's get a little bit more specific. No one that's being moved on by the Spirit of God is not going to celebrate Jesus Christ as Lord, as the only source of real spirituality. Now, they're not going to just celebrate Jesus as a great man or as a good prophet. They're not just going to celebrate Jesus as one path among many. They will recognize and clearly communicate that Jesus Christ is the only true source of real spirituality. Now, if it's Jesus that's moving through them, they'll begin to look like Jesus. They'll begin to sound like Jesus, and the spiritual activity that happens will accomplish the purposes of Jesus. When it comes to spirituality, when the Spirit moves on a person, when a Spirit moves through a person, something happens. It actually causes an action. It causes an action to happen in the spiritual world. And depending on the source, those actions are going to be different. Those people that were asking Paul these questions from Corinth, they were very familiar with supernatural activity and supernatural experiences. They were pretty familiar with what's called the oracles. Oracles were people that had given themselves over to certain gods and certain spirits, and they would go into these experiences where this quote-unquote God, actually a demon, would take them over. And they would begin to speak out, and they would speak out strategies. They would speak out secrets. They would have accurate communications of things, but they were being taken over by these demons. And so Paul, when he's trying to help the Corinthians understand, he says, first off, that you're not just going to be led away by these spiritual forces that you can't control. You actually have a part to play. There's an interaction that's going to happen in the spiritual realm. And this interaction is so important because as the Spirit moves, and when it's really the Spirit of God that's moving, what happens is it looks a lot of different ways. It doesn't always look the same. There's a lot of different activities that happen. There's a lot of different manifestations that will happen. And there's a lot of different things that will be accomplished through that activity and through that manifestation. Sometimes when the Spirit of God begins to move, someone will begin to understand things. They'll begin to have insight into something, what needs to happen, what should happen, what the strategy is. And they'll begin to communicate that wisdom that they've received that didn't come out of their own learning or their own ability. Another one, when the Spirit begins to move upon them, they'll know stuff. Maybe they'll know information about a situation, about a circumstance, or they'll know information about a person, and they'll be able to communicate that knowledge in a way that's understandable. Sometimes when the Spirit of God moves, it gives people an energy, a power, so that they can bring healing, so that they can bring help. And illnesses of mind, illnesses of heart, illnesses of body get removed. Pain leaves. Diseases flee. Sometimes it causes an activity in the Spirit that supersedes the natural order of things, and natural laws are suspended. Something happens that couldn't happen. Someone who's missing a limb, the limb grows back, or this experience just manifests that is impossible for it to happen. Miraculous activity begins to be released when the Spirit of God moves. These are normal ways for it to happen. Sometimes people can speak out in a language that they've never learned, and sometimes people can understand a language that they've never been taught. All of these different activities, they're from the same Spirit. And sometimes the Spirit gives someone the ability to recognize what's actually happening. What's the real spiritual source behind this activity or behind this person? Is this coming from a human spirit? Is this coming from a demonic spirit? Is this coming from an angelic, from a heavenly messenger? Is it actually the movement of God's Spirit, the ability to recognize the spiritual source of any type of activity or situation or circumstance? All of these different things. Now, they're all different. They look so many different ways. It's not the same, but it's actually the same Spirit. And when it happens in a group of people, different ones are going to have different manifestations, different experience, different activities. It's so different. It's like the different parts of a body. You know, when you have a body, you have all these parts. You've got fingers, you've got a mouth, you've got nose, you've got eyes, you've got internal organs that nobody ever sees. And all of the different parts of the body are essential for them to be doing what they're supposed to be doing for the body to be healthy. And so we each have a different part. And when the Spirit begins to move, different people are doing different things. But no matter that they're different, they have equal value. And so it's not just about the parts of the body that are the most obvious and the most seen. It's about each part doing its part. And this is one of the ways that you recognize true spirituality, because when the Spirit of God moves, it doesn't make everybody look the same. The Spirit of God comes in all the uniqueness of his personality and causes people to be different. And just because one is different than another, we can't look down on the other because they're not us, and we can't look down on ourselves because we don't look like them. Just because one person has a gifting that is not as obvious doesn't mean it's any less important to what God is doing in a group. Now, all of this works together to accomplish the purposes of God. It's about the activity of God. And God's Spirit is particular. He is a person. He's the full expression of Jesus Christ. And Jesus is the full expression of the Father. And we can recognize the Spirit because when the Spirit of God moves, he carries the character, the personality of God himself. And this is the key thing. You can recognize the source of any type of spiritual activity by looking at the speech. Do they celebrate Jesus? That's essential. You can take a look at the actions, but there's also a certain character. And that is when the very personality of God begins to reveal. This is one of the key things we need to understand, that the whole point of this is that God, when God moves by his Spirit, the God who is love, always reveals love.
I had a dream. And in this dream, I saw my mentor, who's been dead for several years, but in this dream, he was in front of me, and I knew somehow that I got to ask him 3 questions. And so the first thing I asked him was, "What is heaven like?" And he didn't say a word. He just looked at me. And in that one glance, I could tell what he meant. All the indescribable joys and pleasures of heaven just summed up in a look. Second, I asked him, "Am I doing okay? Am I doing it right?" And he started to speak, but it was in a different language. And I tried as hard as I could to understand, to slow down the words he was speaking and to grab any bit of it that I could, but I couldn't understand it. And finally, I asked him, "What is the most important thing for me to do?" And in that moment, it was like he was just right in front of me, staring into my eyes. And he said, "Love people." And I just broke. I started weeping and I said, I can't. It's too hard, I can't. I'm trying, but I can't. And I wept and I woke up, and when I woke up, I really was in tears. And that was all.
This dream is such a powerful and such a beautiful dream. This mentor is a representation of a father, and this is actually Father God. And there's 3 key areas that are being revealed to you. The questions about what's going to come after this, your sense of heaven. It's not something that your mind is going to be able to understand, but your heart is going to be able to comprehend. And you actually received in this dream the understanding of what heaven is going to be like. Something got deposited into your spirit that is very real and is very tangible. And you'll find your appreciation and your understanding of heaven increasing as you move forward. The second question, am I doing the right thing? That question, it's not something that at this point in time you have the comprehension of, but Job talks about dreams that we're given in the night season, and God seals our instruction in our dreams. It's not that that wasn't answered. It's just that your ability to understand it right now was sealed so that you didn't have that understanding at this season, because that's not the question that you really need to know. The most important question was the final question. What's the most important thing for me to be doing right now? And the intensity and that nearness of the Father when he looked in your face and said to love people. This is the most important thing. And your heart was revealed because your heart longed. That's what I really want. That's who I really am. I want to love people. It's just so hard. And the reality of your compassion and your care for people and to honor the heart of God was revealed in those tears. Amazing dream. Amazing dream. For this dreamer, this dream is a significant spiritual encounter that marked their life. They'll never be the same. That's one of the beauties about dreams. They reveal core spiritual principles sometimes that will mark our lives and change us forever. But they're so much more real than just a communication being given. There's an impartation that happens.
God has concealed messages in the dreams we dream, and as we search them out, we learn more about His ways. Decades of study and thousands of dream interpretations gave John Paul Jackson a unique perspective on understanding dreams. With the Beginner's Dream Kit, you'll be taught to recognize the 20 most common dreams and what they are saying. This kit includes the Top 20 Dreams book, John Paul's 2-CD set teaching the basics of dreams and visions, the Moments with God Dream Journal, and 2 dream cards to help you understand your dreams. For your gift of $60 or more, we will send you these important tools designed to start your journey towards a greater understanding of the dreams you dream. Order your Beginner's Dream Kit today. Visit dreamsandmysteries.com or call 1-800-538-5285. Dreams and Mysteries relies on the gifts of our friends and partners. We want to extend a heartfelt thank you to those that help us provide this quality program. Would you consider partnering with us? Visit streamsministries.com/partner or dreamsandmysteries.com to learn more.
So, there are a lot of things that happen to spiritual people when spiritual activity increases. We should be seeking after all of it. We need all of it. But there's another key to recognizing the spiritual activity that comes from God and that which does not. What comes out of our mouths is important. What we do is important. But why we do it, that's more important. The highest form of spirituality is love. It doesn't matter how astounding the spiritual activity is. Someone can know everyone's secrets and describe the spiritual realm accurately. But if it's not coming out of love for the purpose of love, it's worthless and all their spiritual activity is empty. They can cause limbs to grow out, make something impossible by every natural law happen because their expectation is so high. But if they didn't do it because of love, run away. They're worthless and all their supposed spirituality is dangerous. Now, in our world, love is a term that is thrown around quite a bit. So let's clarify what love is and what love isn't. Love can wait. It's not in a hurry. It's kind. It's good to others. It doesn't get bothered by other people's success, abilities, possessions. And it doesn't try to impress others by making sure they know about their success, abilities, or possessions. It doesn't demand that others treat them the way they think they deserve. It doesn't look down on others, and it takes into account how others feel and what they want. Love is okay when things don't happen exactly like they want it to happen. It's not on their plan. It can allow others to have their way even when it's not what they would have wanted. Love doesn't get upset easily and refuses to keep track of what others did. Love is never okay with sin, but it loves the truth. It lets things go, keeps believing, expecting the best. All of the spiritual manifestations will end up disappearing. There will come a day when love himself will be our whole reality. We will see him face to face, and no one will have to tell us anything about him. We'll already know. No one will need to tell us what he thinks. He'll be speaking directly to us. Until that day, we need to have all the spiritual manifestations. They're important, but they're not the fullness. Jesus is. God is. And God is love. The kind of love that we're talking about that proves real spirituality is actually the character of God working its way out in those that are with him. You see, whatever spiritual source you spend time with will affect the way that you talk, act, live, and what you value. People that are actually spiritual, the right type of spirituality, talk, act, live, and value just like Jesus. Love is the high point of spirituality. Now, our trust in God will last forever. Our confident expectation of the good that he will bring never ends. But the most important is love. His love for us, our love for him, and the way that love overflows to everyone that we interact with.
The foundation determines the strength of the building. Why and how you approach your dreams and their interpretations determines the trust you can put in them for guidance. Join John E. Thomas as he digs deep to lay a strong biblical foundation for dreams, their interpretations, and our response to them in the Dream Foundations package. For your gift of $30 or more, you will receive all 4 messages in the Dream Foundations 2 DVD set, plus your own personal Moments with God Dream Journal. Learn how each of us have a unique journey to the heart of God, how dreams and revelation are relationship tools to help us grow closer to God, how to know if a dream or vision is from God, and God's desire for you to respond to the things he shares with you. Visit dreamsandmysteries.com or call 1-800-538-5285 to request your Dream Foundations package today.
When it comes to spirituality, when it comes to our life and the way that we live, we have to pursue love. We must be going after love in everything that we do. But when we go after love, it also requires that we go after spiritual activity. We should constantly be seeking for spiritual power and spiritual encounters. It's not just an option for some, it's a commandment for all of us. Every single one of us should be going after power so that we can love well. Because we are spiritual, whatever we may think of spirituality as being. But when it comes to what that looks like, love has very concrete expressions. It actually looks like something. If we're going to operate in spiritual powers out of love, it must be about the other person. Because the high point of spirituality is love. And love does not seek its own. It's about the other person. Let's take a look at what this would look like in a gathering of people. When we get together with other people who obviously are spirits as well, if we begin to seek after God, we're going to find him. He's going to show up. And when God shows up, things happen. Different gifts happen. There's healings that happen. There's knowledge that happens. There's wisdom that happens. Things happen when God comes. But we get a choice in the matter. We actually co-labor with him in this. And so as he comes and as his power is present, we should be seeking after those gifts that are going to bring help to the other people that are around us, that are going to be effective in loving other people well, that are going to comfort other people, encourage other people, build them up so that they are stronger in their foundation and able to live out the lives that they're intended to live out. If we're in a group of people and somebody is sick, then love would require us to seek after healing so that they would no longer be sick. If we're in a group of people and somebody is confused, love would require us to seek after understanding. We should long to be used in the gifts. We should long to be used in the greater gifts. And the greater gifts are those gifts that are the most loving for the people around us. So you can tell the source of someone's spirituality by how they treat the people around them. Do they love well? There's a man that I've looked up to for years because of his spiritual gifting, because of his maturity, his ability to interact with the things of the Spirit. There was a season in his life where he was having spiritual encounters every single day. He would have heavenly experiences. He would interact with the presence of God. He would have interactions with angelic messengers. After a period of time of having these encounters on a regular basis, he started to realize, who in my life knows the Bible better because of these experiences that I'm having? Who is more in love with Jesus because of these things that are happening to me? Whose life is better? Who's healed? Who's brought closer to God because of this? He realized that there was not any fruit from those experiences, and so he made the decision to not spend so much time having those experiences so that he would have time to minister to people. That is a mature spirituality. That's what it's supposed to look like. It's supposed to look like love. It's about the other person, because that's what God looks like. The one true source of real spirituality, he is love. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believed in him, anybody that chose to believe in him, could have everlasting life and not perish. And when he left, he gave us that commandment. He said, as I have loved you, so you should love one another. He even said that the way people are going to recognize that you follow me is by how you love one another. Love is the key. Love is what spirituality, real, healthy spirituality actually looks like. As we spend time with the God who is love, we encounter love. And as we encounter his love for us, our hearts will automatically move in love for him. Because there's an interaction, because this God is the God of love. Let me leave you with a question. Did you learn how to love? Do you love others well? Because that's how you'll know that you're truly a spiritual person.